Thanks a lot, guys and girls. First of all, I would use the opportunity to express a gratefulness to Hans Jørgen, a man that I have known little for only 3-4 months. We met in a Nordic business and personal development summit outside Copenhagen in November last year. And he gave me some opportunities to talk about what is my real passion, which is diet and nutrition, in Congress in February this year. So the irony here is that when I, after 20 years in the oil business, has decided to call it quits, I'm asking to talk about the oil business. So, but anyway, I will make some more like digressions, anecdotes, fill-ins, because the good man here from Haugesund have already summarized, I would say, the major development lines and aspects about Stavanger in the past and now. But I will tell you a little bit about myself. I have worked in 20 years in the oil business. 6 years onshore in different companies and 13 years offshore. And my 13 years offshore has been partly for a service company called BTU Syntec, and then also a French service company called Geo Services. So I think I know a little bit about the aspects and the business and the how it can feel to live as an offshore worker. And I got a lot of comments also about this thing with pollution, how badly informed and skilled the journalists are in terms of presenting incidents in the wrong way. These 6 years I worked onshore. I also worked for an environmental company, which in fact has a facility in Gibraltar. But even they have the the oil companies as clients because they were treating slop water from boats. So the influence and the importance of the oil business is almost incalculable. So my main experience, I would say, is a mud logging geologist and a data engineer. It's a kind of combined drilling engineer and a geologist, where you are sampling, prepare and evaluation cuttings and shows from wellbore, and also sampling, monitoring and interpretation of gas. And the third main aspect is volume control. That is one of the crucial concerns for the client, to know that the well is not losing mud or it is not kicking in. I've worked for various clients like Statoil, Lundin, BP and Talisman. I worked on various rigs, both exploration, appraisal wells, which actually drill wells to know how vast the oil producing field can be, and also pure production wells like Sleipner, Gullfaks, Transocean, Gyda, West Epsilon. And I don't know how interesting it is to talk about who was starting when and how, but I read that in 1962, in fact, was the first time that Phillips contacted the authorities in Norway in order to start exploration of hydrocarbons. And then the structural unemployment rate was very high in Norway. In fact, Stavanger was one of the poorest cities in Norway during the 60s. So then it evolved with negotiations about the delimitation line, Delingslinja, in 1965, and then In 1969, the rig Ocean Viking for Phillips Petroleum found on Block 24 an elephant. That started the real adventure. An elephant is considered to be above 500 million barrels of oil. And that was the start of the Norwegian oil adventure, later known as Ekofisk. And even today, over 40 years later, the production started in 1971, Ekofisk produces. And of course, as maybe this guy from Haugesund mentioned, Statoil's head office came to Stavanger in 72. Norwegian Petroleum Directorate. All these things build up to Stavanger's position as the main oil capital. And you know, we have a very good welfare state in Norway, in Stavanger. It has become increasingly multicultural. Americans came with their families. You even have a club in Norway called American Housewives Club. And the first international school was started in 1966, which correlates very good with when the oil industry came there. In 1970, Stavanger has 80,000 people. Now it's approaching 140,000 people. And Nord-Jæren, this big region with its 4 cities, Stavanger, Sandnes, Sola and Randaberg, is comprising of over 250,000 people. Very important. The highest relative abundance of luxury cars, like Ferraris, is supposed to be in Stavanger. And the Norwegian economy newspaper, Dagens Næringsliv, they had an article last year about income in different parts of townships. And 4 out of the 5 townships with the highest median household income was from Stavanger, not Oslo. In terms of economical influence on culture, 10% of the fundings of the concert house was made by private funds, which is very much, and of course they have their names, they have special seats, special public announcement within the concert house related to how much they relatively gave. And Forus, some of you know the area of Forus, it's between Sandnes and Stavanger. That was in fact wetlands, and 100 years ago they decided to take away the water. So they drained 20 lakes in order to maybe make an airport there. But Sola came first and created Norway's first airport in 1937. And Sola is one of the most trafficked airports in Scandinavia, which also is most highly due to the oil business. So when the Germans came to Norway in 1940, they decided, we still want to make an airport in Forus. So they built, within 12 days, they decided to build 3 airport lanes. The longest one is 1200 meters, and that cost an equivalent of 10 billion Norwegian kroner in 1940. So the Germans had money. And by the time the war was over, Stavanger was debt-free, partly due to this. So after the World War II, they decided to create Forus Industrial Project, which was influenced by a similar successful project in Newcastle. So after that, Forus has been the prime cluster of corporation, of stores, businesses, and it has 40,000 people is working there. 40,000 people. 2,500 companies. And he mentioned about the unemployment rate. Stavanger has only 1.9% unemployment rate, which is more like a dynamic one, I think. That is only half of the unemployment rate in Norway. and only 25% of the labor in Stavanger has public positions. 75 is in private sector. So, and in 2007, Stavanger was rewarded for the fourth time in a row to be Norway's best business region. So, yes, I think that was my 15-20 minutes.
All right,
I could have talked for hours, but thank you. Just a little teaser.
Thank you. Wow, is that something is going to happen? The same thing is going to happen in Las Palmas. We have some exciting times to look forward to. I
So can I interrupt you, Hans? I think
Sure.
it would be wrong to say that the same thing is going to happen.
Similar.
We're 14 years on. The globalization of money is very different from how it was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Something's going to happen, but I wouldn't say it would the same.
Right. But we could see population growth. I mean, we could see people come in. We could see new business areas of the island, like at the port of Arinaga. All of a sudden, like the last thing Bjarte mentioned, like a totally new center. So all of a sudden you have this unexpected development on geographic places that you didn't expect. I mean, stuff like that. I sort of saw the pattern here for stuff that could happen, and we don't say it will happen. But yeah, sure.
I think the question was that's all the reps all move there. I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. But you see what's happening in Stavanger and what's happening in Aberdeen. New companies are coming in after 40 years and putting main offices there. And I'm talking about huge complexes. There's one company that has 7 huge buildings and on about a 80-acre place. It's a subsea company. And we have deep water here. There will be a lot of subsea action. These are huge companies, and they employ, 8, 10, 12,000 people. And these are the kind of things you could care if they put a main oil company office here. They can stay in Houston or wherever they are. You know, what you want is a services office, the people that employ a lot of people and get the industry going and get the technology going. And that's what's going to bring the money in.
Right.
I just a small comment. What we mentioned about industrial development and infrastructure. There is a phantom menace. Interesting enough, Forus has done things in the very late past that might hamper and hinder the further development, because unfortunately the local governments in both the county and the municipality hasn't foreseen the infarctus traffic situation in and into Forus and also outside. And the cost of establishing there is also very big. So now more and more companies are establishing outside Forus. So that could be a kind of phantom menace in terms of the politicians' will and creativeness to actually lay things ahead for the traffic.
Great. All right. So good job.